The leaders crash on the final lap, handing Big Bill Byron back-to-back big ones. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove on the Go, coming to you from beautiful Daytona International Speedway, the site of the 67th annual Daytona 500. Race just concluded. You'll hear from some of the top finishers. You'll hear from some of those who were taken out in large, sometimes controversial crashes. You'll also hear plenty from me. And boy, do I have a lot to get off my chest. Where do we even start? The theme today was America. Great American race, President's Day weekend. POTUS himself was boots on the ground leading the field during the opening pace laps. Ryan Preece took off like a bald eagle. No, in all seriousness, the Daytona 500 once again turned into one giant, high-speed game of chance. And Americans love to be bold. They love to gamble. They love to take risks. The Daytona 500 is one big gamble. We spend all week discussing which OEMs, which manufacturers have the most speed, which drivers will work best with their teammates, but it really comes down to, do you dodge the last lap crash? The Truck, Xfinity, and Cup race this weekend all ended with a huge last lap crash. The ARCA race ended with a huge crash after the checkered flag. That's Daytona. One big game of chance. It's why it's called the Great American Race. And just like our great nation's history, there were plenty of highs and lows tonight. We'll start with, let's just get one of the lows out of the way. I mentioned it earlier, Ryan Preece, for the second time in the past couple of years, went for a wild flip down the back straightaway here at Daytona. Maybe they should try repaving the air next time. Maybe that will keep his car on the ground. No, okay, in all seriousness, I only am making these light jokes because Ryan Preece did walk away. He was okay. I saw him when he got out of the infield care center. He was talking with RFK Racing Team President Steve Newmark. Thought that was cool to see, their team leader showing their new driver some support after a scary moment. I want to read this quote to you. Ryan Preece said after he got out of the care center that something needs to change. We know where there's a problem at super speedways. I don't want to be the example of when it finally does get somebody. I don't want it to be me. Something has to be done because cars lifting off the ground like that honestly felt worse than Daytona in 2023. Yeah, honestly, the way he collided with, I think, Bell's car and then just lifted straight up, like the nose pointed straight up to the sky. I can't imagine what that felt like in the car, especially where he was going into turn 3. You're worried you're pointed right at the catch fence. You fear the worst at that point. So Ryan Preece's comments, I think, are going to have a resounding impact. I think NASCAR is going to hear his plea. Now, he didn't really go into specifics. Again, he says there, we know what needs to be changed at super speedways. He didn't really elaborate. I'm going to assume he's talking about the flat underbody, the underwing on the next gen car. Flat panel like that, when you get some air under it, it's real easy for it to blow completely over. So maybe he's suggesting that NASCAR strip the underbody off the Cup car. That's been discussed in the past. Shoot, that's even been tested at short tracks the past couple of years. Maybe that's the quickest fix NASCAR could consider, at least when we come to these high-banked, high-speed super speedways. Glad Ryan Preece walked away. I do hope at some point NASCAR considers making another aerodynamic change to these cars because we are seeing at this point too many scary flips. And for some reason, it feels like Ryan Preece is always in the middle of these scary crashes. Even going back to the Gen 6 era, some of his time at JTG Doherty, some scary, scary crashes Ryan Preece has been a part of. That was a low. Okay, that was a bad thing that happened. Let's talk about a positive. I'm going to bounce around a little here. But Jimmie Johnson, 7-time NASCAR champion, finished third tonight. He's a 2-time Daytona 500 winner. Why are we celebrating a third place finish? Well, you see, since coming back from semi-retirement, Jimmie Johnson has failed to score a single top 20 in 12 starts for Legacy Motor Club. It has been a disaster, an utter and complete cluster. So much bad luck, so many bad breaks tonight. Jimmie Johnson actually caught a good break for a change with the last lap crash. Third place for Jimmie in that cool Shaquille O'Neal, Orlando Magic style scheme. Here's some of what Jimmie had to say post-race.
The reality is we're not on a normal track, but I think our plate stuff is quite strong. Toyota has put a huge effort into that over the offseason. I'm very optimistic, very excited.
Yeah, that's a positive, feel-good story. Now let's go back the other way. NASCAR race control's credibility is at an all-time low. I'm pretty sure I said that at some point last season. Somehow they've sank even further. What a disaster this weekend. A masterclass in inconsistency. So remember, the second dual race Thursday night ended with a big crash on the front straightaway. They threw the yellow instantly about 200 feet before the leaders got to the line. It changed the outcome of that race. When they threw the yellow, Cindric was still a nose out in front, but by the time they got to the line, 200 feet later, Eric Jones crossed the line first. So NASCAR deciding to press the button as quickly as they did actually decided the result of dual race number 2. That's fine. I even defended NASCAR. As frustrated as I was that it didn't get to finish truly under green, I even said NASCAR's job is to hit the button when they see a dangerous crash. That's their job. They did it, as frustrating as the outcome may have been. I didn't have a problem with Thursday night, and I didn't have a problem Friday night when they threw the caution on the last lap of the truck race because of a big crash. That was the right call. Saturday in the Xfinity race, same thing. Frustrating, I know, that they weren't able to race it back to the line, but in each case, there was a big crash. It was the right thing to do. So what did NASCAR do tonight? Huge crash going down the backstretch. Last lap, NASCAR doesn't hit the button. Okay, they're going to wait a couple seconds. No, the leaders are in turn 4 behind me. They're not hitting the button. They let them race it out for nearly a half a damn lap. I mean, what? Where is the consistency? I mean, it didn't determine the outcome of the race. William Byron led in turn 3, and he led at the start-finish line, so thankfully it didn't change the winner of the Daytona 500, but like, in this race 1 year ago, they were quick on the trigger. Race ended under caution. What happened tonight? Absolutely zero consistency. And when there's zero consistency, there's no trust. And when there's no trust, there's no credibility. NASCAR doesn't have a lot of credibility left to lose. What an absolute disaster class on the final lap tonight. I've said this many times in the past. NASCAR listens to the fans. You may think that they don't because they don't always agree with your ideas, your philosophy, but clearly tonight we saw that they listened to Twitter. 100% NASCAR saw the uproar Thursday night on Twitter about how that race ended. Absolutely that was in the back of their minds tonight. And NASCAR, this is a message to you directly. You can't let Twitter officiate a sport that consists of 40 cars, 3,000 pounds each, racing at 200 miles per hour. You can't give Twitter that kind of control. Absolute disaster. Again, I'm glad nobody was injured, as far as I know, on the back straightaway, and I'm glad it didn't ultimately decide who won the race, but please, consistency. That's all we freaking ask for. Okay. That was a big negative. Let's talk about a big positive. William Byron, back-to-back Daytona 500 champion. Last guy to do that, actually it wasn't that long ago, strangely enough. It was Denny Hamlin in 2019-2020. Before that, I think you got to go back to Sterling Marlin in the 90s. What a group of drivers there. Sterling Marlin, Denny Hamlin, and William Byron. What do they all have in common? William Byron stole this one. I think we can be honest about it. I mean, let's talk for a moment about what actually happened there on the last lap, and you'll hear from Denny Hamlin in a moment as well. So we're going to combine a couple of topics here, but last lap, it's Austin Cindric versus Denny Hamlin. Hamlin made a great move to get to the outside. Cindric had been probably the best car, at least the whole second half of this race, after Joey Logano fell back and had his troubles. Two great cars, two recent Daytona 500 champions on the front row, duking it out. Cole Custer, young guy, back in Cup for the first time in 3 years, makes a move to the outside. That's fine. But when Chase Briscoe didn't go with him, he went instead with his teammate Denny Hamlin. That was extremely predictable. I'm not sure why Cole Custer didn't see that one coming. Custer decided to move down, and that triggered the huge crash. Asked Denny Hamlin after the race if he saw it that way. This was Denny Hamlin's assessment of that last lap crash.
He had a run, and it was a run that if I chose to try to block, it was not going to end. It was probably going to end just like it ended anyway. But I always want to try to get to the last corner before you make the game-changing move, that like the do-or-die situation. And I thought it was going to be a great opportunity for really me and Cole to kind of race side by side to the line, considering the push that I got from the 19 was about to clear me on the 2. But I get a push from the 19. I see the 2s just barely there, so I leave him room. And I saw the 41 just started turning left, and when he did, it got hooked with the 19, and that put it into me. I don't fault Cole going for it. I mean, he's back in the Cup Series. He's got a good opportunity to go out here and lock himself in the playoffs. I mean, it's probably pretty big all around for the 41 team. So he's going to do everything he can to make a move that he thinks is the race-winning move. I just said to him, like, I think it's, from the experience I've had in these races, you got to get off of 4. Then you can, turn left, do whatever you got to do, make contact. But it's just, I thought, was a little bit too early. But not everyone's going to do it like I would do it, and it's not to say that I do the right way.
We'll get back to William Byron in a second. I apologize. I know this is a tangent, but I agree with Denny Hamlin's assessment ultimately of that crash for the most part, though I don't love the way he's kind of letting Cole Custer off the hook. Like, I appreciate Denny trying to take the high road. I think that's good. Move on. Got another race next week. But I don't really love how he just kind of accepts that as long as Cole Custer is going for it, anything is on the table. Like, that to me is Denny Hamlin admitting that every driver out there is kind of out of control. Like, Denny's admitting that it could have been him who made that bad move and caused the big wreck. Like, that's not great. Your most prestigious race, one of your best drivers is admitting that everyone's kind of out of control, especially on the last lap. Like, I don't love that. Like, I'm not saying Denny should go sock Cole Custer in the mouth. I'm not saying that, but like, I think we should get back to holding the drivers somewhat accountable for mistakes even here at drafting tracks. That's just me. Anyway, back to William Byron. William Byron was the beneficiary. He squirted past this crash on the outside. Beautiful looking paint scheme. I'm sorry, I don't feel like the new look Exalta flame scheme, Jeff Gordon-esque. I don't think that scheme got enough love tonight. Hopefully the broadcast showed it more love than I'd seen earlier in the week. Beautiful, beautiful looking car. And the team fire suits, like I'd been teleported back to 2007. You gotta be happy for William Byron. We know he's a good super speedway racer. Shoot, this is his 4th, oh my gosh, this is already his 4th next-gen super speedway win. Most of all drivers. I'm not sure anyone even has 2. 4 wins for William Byron. Back-to-back Daytona 500s. My goodness. I mean, yeah, he got pretty damn lucky there on the back straightaway, but I mean, he's still pretty good. He's putting himself in position year after year. Really cool to see him celebrate with his team. Not a lot of 2-time Daytona 500 winners out there. In recent history, obviously, Denny has the 3. Jimmy has 2, I mentioned earlier. Jeff Gordon has multiple. Dale Earnhardt Jr., Matt Kenseth. I mentioned Sterling Marliner. I mean, Michael Waltrip also has 2. So, yeah. Anyway, gosh, I'm just taking shots at everyone tonight. I'm so sorry. It's a long week. Been a long weekend. I'm starting to get delirious. The lack of sleep, I should say, is beginning to set in. But, yeah, so I want to make this a positive moment. Happy for William Byron. Congratulations to Hendrick Motorsports. Man, Chevrolet, they stole another one. I got some more stats for you. There have now been 19 next-gen races at drafting tracks. That's Daytona, Talladega, Atlanta. 19 races. Chevrolet has now won 12 of them. Ford, meanwhile, who I think we all consider to be the dominant, the fastest OEM at drafting tracks, they only have 6. And Toyota still just has the 1 with Tyler Reddick a couple years ago, or last year. Kind of got lucky then, too. But think about that. Chevrolet has double the wins of Ford at drafting tracks in this new car. That's crazy, especially when you look at the laps led stat. During the race tonight, I went back and looked at the 6 drafting races last season, and I counted that Ford led 62% of all laps. Nearly 2/3 of the race was led by one manufacturer, mostly Penske, mostly front row, a little RFK mixed in there. I mean, we saw tonight, Austin Cindric, Ryan Blaney, and Joey Logano were arguably the 3 best cars. Logano and Blaney won the first 2 stages. Logano had all sorts of mechanical issues, debris in the throttle body, came back from the back of the pack to still score stage points, almost race for the win at the end of stage 2. Like, that's how good those Penske Fords were. Yet, again, Ford as an OEM, half as many wins at drafting tracks as Chevy the past 3+ years now. That's a crazy stat. Chevrolet, right place, right time. I don't know how they do it. Congratulations to William Byron. That's a plus.
You can't underestimate the amount of preparation and teamwork that we had throughout the week. I mean, we had an awesome car today. We just didn't have the track position to show it, and the way the fuel savings and strategy worked out. So last year was kind of the opposite. We were always up front, and this year it just wasn't that way. And so I felt like for us, we just were trying to stay positive, and I felt like each restart there at the end, we were still optimistic about our chances to get forward. And yeah, obviously it worked out in a fortunate way for us, but it's not all luck to win twice in a row. So it's a lot of teamwork and a lot of talking with my spotter and us 3 working together and making the most of it. So Definitely fortunate, but definitely a lot of teamwork.
I guess that means we're due for another negative. I felt for Helio Castroneves and Martin Truex Jr. tonight. Both caught up in wrecks. Truex had the oil cooler, I believe, knocked out of his 56 before halfway. Tough way for the Cole Pern Martin Truex Jr. reunion to end, though Truex did say after the race that he plans to race again, just doesn't quite know where and when yet. So that's encouraging. That's exciting. I felt really bad for Helio Castroneves, though. The man was put through it this week. Welcome to NASCAR, bud. Welcome to Daytona. Wednesday night didn't have the single car speed I think we all expected them to have. Okay, that's not really on the driver. Thursday night gets caught up in a wreck in his dual race. Dang, has to take the OEP, was not eligible for any purse money tonight. Shoot. And then Saturday, oh my gosh, caught up in 2 ARCA wrecks. Managed to keep it rolling, was racing inside the top 5, finished top 5 at the end, and then still got wrecked after the checkered by someone who I don't think knew the race was over. So are you keeping score at home yet? That's at least 4 wrecks Helio Castroneves had already been a part of this weekend before we even got to the Daytona 500. And then, of course, tonight, caught up in another wreck. Friendly fire. Chastain got shot up the track into Castroneves. I just feel for the guy, man. He also said he would like to come back and race more NASCAR stuff, but he did say he'd maybe prefer to try a road course next, which I don't blame him. I think, one, Helio on a road course would be awesome. And what I mean is I don't blame him if he never wants to set foot on the Daytona Oval ever again. Like, I think he may be super speedwayed out after this tumultuous week. But it's cool to have him here. Cool to have Martin Truex Jr. back. And it's cool to see Justin Allgaier, Junior Motorsports, in their Cup Series debut, walk out of here with a top 10 finish. Was a pretty quiet night. Chris Stapleton, country music sensation, on the pit box most of the race. Great result for this new Cup Series team. You can see the rest of the finishing results right there. Hey, I guess my Toyota prediction, I said earlier in the week that I thought Toyota was going to surprise some folks. I guess that turned out to be kind of true. 4 Toyotas in the top 5, trailing William Byron Chevrolet. Big weekend for Legacy, 2 cars in the top 5. Damn, Ryan Blaney was caught up in like the second or third to last crash, had all sorts of tape on the car, and still drove that thing home to a top 10. Hey, I guess that's what happens when everybody else crashes. You just don't want to be the last to crash. That's what I'm learning here, because where's Denny Hamlin? Not pictured here. 24th. I guess I could look at this pylon behind me, although it's out of focus. 24th for Denny Hamlin, and he was leading on the final lap. That sucks. But there you go. Look at the top 15 finishers right there. Where should we go next? I do want to talk about Joey Logano for a moment because I think he had the best car, and he's arguably the best super speedway racer in the field. I mentioned all the mechanical and fluky debris issues they had. They worked their way back up into contention, though. We're in the top 5. As the laps were winding down, they tangled with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Color me shocked, I know. Ricky Stenhouse and Joey Logano making aggressive moves caused a wreck? Who'da thunk it? Looked to me like Ricky Stenhouse Jr. made a late block. Joey Logano tried to fill a hole, and then rather than maybe let them both kind of catch it, he kept forcing the issue. Ricky was certainly having a hard time staying in one lane. Joey Logano, when he left the infield care center, gave his perspective of the crash.
I was there. We had a late block. I lifted. It looked like he was going to go back up. I went to go back in there. Then he came back down. I was going to start lifting again. And then at that point, the checkup is so big that all the cars behind you are just shoving you into it. And at that point, you're along for the ride. So I don't know if I mean, what to do differently at the moment. It's easy to say just don't make the move, but not making the move doesn't win the race either. So just late race and a late block kind of got us all in trouble.
Tough deal all around. Took out a lot of good cars. Kyle Busch with his RCR teammate Austin Dillon were in contention to possibly win this race. Dillon's won the 500 before. Kyle Busch, this was his 20th attempt. That would have been a huge storyline if Kyle could have not only won the Great American Race, but also snapped that now 58 race Cup winless streak. Wasn't meant to be. That's a shame. This was a roller coaster of a race, man. I feel like every time I say something good, hey, look at this guy, I have to harp on something bad. Goodness, I guess it validates my feelings last night. Let me talk about this for something. Maybe I shouldn't say what I'm about to say. I probably shouldn't say what I'm about to say, but I have to be honest. I'm not sure I love the Daytona 500. Let me explain. I love the facility. Shoot, this is maybe my favorite track to visit on the entire NASCAR schedule. It's beautiful. I love the pageantry, the pre-race, the pomp and circumstance. It's beautiful. There's nothing in NASCAR like it. I even love some of the on-track racing. I thought stage 1 tonight was thrilling once the rain finally went away and they actually were able to duke it out at full speed, not worried about fuel. That was awesome. But the part I think I dread about the Daytona 500 now is simply the finish. This is now 3 straight Daytona, 4 straight, no 5. 5 straight, 6 straight Daytona 500s that have ended with a massive, massive crash. Not all have ended under caution, but they've all ended with something huge, something big, usually happening up at the front of the field, taking out one of the leaders or one of the top contenders. There's the safety component for sure. I'm always worried a driver is going to get hurt, but more than that, I guess it just bothers me that the most prestigious race with, I think they said, a record-setting purse this year, $30 million spread across the field, with that much money, that much prestige on the line. I guess I don't love that so much of these finishes are put up to chance. Like, Denny Hamlin and Austin Cindric are both great superspeedway drivers, have great superspeedway cars. They put themselves in position to race for the win side by side, and they got turned by a guy who's basically a rookie once again. Hadn't raced for the lead at all day. And they both end up wrecked, and someone from, I don't even know where Willie was on that restart or where he was before the wreck, 2 or 3, 4 rows back, gets the win instead. Like, you know what I mean? We treat the Daytona 500 with so much respect. We call this the Super Bowl of stock car racing, but year after year after year, it just comes down to luck on the last lap. It's not luck to get to that point, but the actual final lap and where you finish feels like a lot of luck. And I guess I don't love that our most prestigious race is such a gamble. You know what I mean? I like the Daytona 500. I love so much about this event, but the way these races finish the last few years, I don't love that. And it's why I found myself somewhat dreading today when I went to sleep last night. If I can be completely honest, I'm just being completely honest. I know many of you will not agree, but I have to be honest on this show. I owe it to you guys. I'll try to be fair when putting this race on the Groovy Gauge, powered by Electric E-Bikes. Head to electricebikes.com to find a ride that suits you. Stage 1 was awesome. Loved it. Stage 2 was fine, some gridlock. We never saw green flag pit stops tonight because the cautions came out at the exact right time. Shoot, that one phantom debris caution in Stage 3 really changed the complexion of this race. But the wrecks at the end, we all saw that coming. It doesn't ruin this race for me, but it's why I don't love this race. I liked most of this race. I think I'm going to go 70% on the Groovy Gauge. This is a good race. I'm glad I came. I'm glad I watched it. It still kind of left a bad taste ringing in the back of my mouth. Just a little bit. Just parts of it did. The Preece flip, the best cars at the end getting junked by no fault of their own, really. I mean, just things like that. If we're going to crown a Daytona 500 champion, I don't want there to be so much luck involved. I guess that's all. 70% for me on the Electric E-Bikes Groovy Gauge. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. My camera is about to run out of battery, so I'll try to make this quick. Thank you all so much for watching. It's a brand new season. I really appreciate your support. Got lots of exciting things planned. It was great to see so many of you out here at the racetrack. I appreciate everyone who came up and said hi, got to talk a little racing. I've said this before, but growing up as a kid, I had no real friends who watched racing. When I went off to college, I started this show because I wanted to find race fans out in the world and be part of the conversation, have these debates. And now I get to have those not only on this show with y'all in the comments, but also in person when I come to these events. It's so much fun. It's such a blast. It's such a privilege to have this platform. I really appreciate all of the support you guys have given me the past few years, and I hope 2025 is maybe the best year yet. On that note, of course, there's my Patreon supporters. You guys go above and beyond. Greatly appreciate y'all. Hope you did well in your first fantasy race of the year. And of course, like, subscribe. If you're new to the channel, we'll be here all year. Not at every race. I had a good handful of them, but we'll be covering the sport week in, week out, getting you from one Sunday to the next until the end of the season. I think that will do it. My camera is about to die, so if I cut off here awkwardly, you know why. Thanks for tuning in, folks. See you next week, Atlanta Motor Speedway. It's full steam ahead for the 2025 NASCAR season. Thanks for watching, folks. I'll catch you next time.